It's super great to talk to you. And I love when someone becomes successful and finds his or her passion to make a difference in our community. And our next guest is bringing hope to so many, not only with the encouragement and the inspiration, but with tools to succeed. Our next guest is John Hope Bryant. He's joining us right now. He's got a brand new book. And why was it important for you to write this book, The Memo?
I think that after I ran across this Abraham Lincoln untold story of March 3rd, 1865, where he created a bank after the Civil War to teach free slaves about money. And you think about that, like after the Civil War, arguably the most progressive president we've ever had, thought the most important thing that he could do for former slaves was to teach them about money. I mean, it's pretty crazy when you think about it, but it makes sense. Like he authorized what we now call 40 acres and a mule 2 months before that. So that was 400,000 acres, and then we worked so hard. The next month they gave us a mule to work the land, and then the bank to finance the land and to finance the tilling of the soil and to bring us in the economy. Now Lincoln was killed the next month. It was April. He was assassinated. So the whole story was lost to history. So we got the Treasury Department to rename the Treasury Annex building to the Freedmen's Bank building. That was last year. And about 2.5 years ago, I embarked upon a mission to finish what Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass began with the Freedmen's Bank. And then when I learned that Dr. King's last movement from our hometown of Atlanta, Dr. King and my mentor Andrew Young's last movement before King was assassinated was also about money and about poverty eradication. And it just dawned on me, like, it's not like we got the memo and screwed it up. It's not like, black people and brown people and struggling white people got the memo on free enterprise and capitalism and somehow screwed it up. We just never got the memo. And that actually inspired me. Like, okay, maybe we can do this at scale, and maybe free enterprise is not some boogeyman that's horrible and dangerous. Maybe it's the love of money and not money. Maybe it's the abuse of capitalism. Maybe it could be used as a force for good. And so I came to the conclusion that we didn't get the memo, and I was going to deliver it. So we're doing it on the ground with Hope Inside locations. We just opened our 100th location last week. We're going to open 1,000 by 2020. And we're doing it philosophically by upgrading the software in your mind by things like this book. This is my 4th book in a series of books that I'm laying out as sort of a blueprint for the revitalization of masses of people's lives.
Well, I know you mentioned Abraham Lincoln amongst others, but why and how did you start this book off?
I mean, I start with getting cursed out. That's where I start in the book. I read the book, the audio version. I read the book myself, but also, in writing the book, you'll hear the first story I tell. I was on the Roland Martin show, and I got cursed out by, an audience I thought was friendly, that I thought I understood, because I grew up in Compton, California. I grew up in South Central LA, and people confuse the suit and all that kind of stuff with, maybe being out of touch. But I consider myself very in touch with, neighborhoods and communities, and I was shocked. Man, I just basically talked about slavery in economic terms. I said slavery was about building a country for free. It wasn't personal. Like, nobody went all the way to Africa to get you just to abuse you because they had nothing else to do, or they have some sort of a vendetta against black people. You were convenient chattel property that allowed them to build. You were human machinery, and it was immoral and all the rest of that stuff too. But that was like the primary motivator was economics and money. And anyway, I was talking about this, and I didn't realize the switchboard was just lighting up, and people were just going crazy. I mean, and I realized that we deal with our problems emotionally. And when you deal with it emotionally, you can't solve it. You've gotten off track. You've gotten off your game. And so I had to deal with that. I mean, they called me all kind of choice names, and I could have just disappeared and said, okay, I'm tired of I don't want to be criticized for trying to do good. I'm out of here. But that's no way to solve a problem. And I had something to learn from the audience. The audience had something to learn from me. And so I decided to lean in and do more, not do less. So we have this Facebook page now that has this week probably 40 million views since that video, which was April of last year, I think it was April of last year. So that negative experience became very positive for me because I decided to go to market with my ideas, and it's been received very well.
And who is this book designed for? Because I know it's more than those that are just marginalized by our society. Why is it important for everybody?
I'm glad you said that, Con. I call this the invisible class, right? I mean, who's invisible to power? Who's invisible to money, wealth, aspiration? Probably 80% of the people on this planet. Certainly the middle class people watching your show and listening to your show who've got too much month at the end of their money, certainly they're invisible to power. They feel that way. People want to feel relevant. They want to feel seen. You know, the most powerful thing you can tell somebody is, I see you. But oftentimes people don't feel seen. And that breeds frustration and anger and resentment and right? And poor whites in rural America don't feel seen. They wouldn't found themselves a spokesman. Poor blacks in urban community don't feel seen. They riot in different ways in 500 credit score neighborhoods, but they both riot. My black and brown friends might riot with their feet, but my white friends in rural America have rioted at the ballot box most recently. But it's still misplaced because it's anger-based. So really it's white, black, red, brown, or yellow who need some more green, who did not get the memo, who like, I'm working my tail off, I'm struggling, I'm smart, but I can't get ahead. This system must be rigged. It's not rigged. There's just a memo you never got, right? That feels like it's rigged. I'll give you an example. Why do people go to Harvard? Why do you spend 5 times more to go to Harvard University than the State University in Georgia? State University of Georgia is a very good university. Are you going to end up 5 times smarter when you graduate from Harvard? Absolutely not. You go to Harvard for one simple reason. The class of 2018 is going to hook each other up for 40 years. Period. That's it. And the opposite of that is if you hang around 9 broke people, you'll be the 10th. So I don't care how brilliant or smart you are. If you're broke and your friends are broke and everybody around you is poor economically and poor in spirit and mentally and depressed and frustrated, see the glass is half empty, not half full, you could have some kid that has the potential of Steve Jobs in that neighborhood, but they're going to end up being a drug dealer because they model what they see. So the problem, as I put in this book, and this is not just about philosophy, this is data driven. So we have laid out the data for neighborhoods across this country, including Atlanta, and I'm going to publish something that on my website later this week. So you should have your people come back to my Facebook page or johnhopebryant.com to look at the data. But we found that credit scores and neighborhood health correlates perfectly. Here's a quick example. Every problem we have is in a 500 credit score neighborhood. Everyone. It's where your homicides are. It's where your dropouts are. Low level of college attainment, low levels of GDP, low levels of small business and entrepreneurship. I can go on, high levels of depression, high levels of hopelessness. It's pain on top of pain, and it's financial illiteracy, it's depression, it's folks who didn't get the memo, being preyed upon by a check casher, next to a payday loan lender, next to a rent-to-own store, next to a title lender, next to a liquor store. And you can find that same situation, Con, in urban, rural America. Exact same situation. Same folks preying on them too. So 700 credit score communities don't riot is the other side of that piece. You've never seen a riot in a 700 credit score neighborhood in America's history of any race. It's just a new way to look at the whole thing. And what if I told you that our problems were solvable and you didn't have to deal with race or politics or partisanship or pit one person against the other? I think it's pretty cool.
Well, it's certainly wonderful what you're doing for the civil rights movement. And as we begin to wrap up this interview, what type of results have you seen from your programs and your books?
The lights come on in America. I mean, first of all, the lights have to come on. I mean, I think the biggest thing that Operation Hope does is sort of reintroduce you back to yourself. Like, the people watching your show, they're brilliant. They're amazing. There are geniuses there. There are future change makers there, right? But if I don't like me, I'm not going to like you. If I don't feel good about me, I'm not going to feel good about you. If I don't love me, I can't love you. Literally. If I don't respect me, I'm not going to respect you. And if I don't have a purpose in my life, I'll make your life a living hell. The first chapter in this book is about you being capital. Capital comes from the Latin root word capitas, knowledge in the head. It has nothing to do with money. Nothing. So if you have belief in yourself, you have inner capital, and you'll have no money. You'll make it. But if you don't have inner capital, all the money in the world won't save you.
Wow, that is wonderful. It's powerful. I want to salute you as being one of the great citizens in our country for making a difference and caring. And John, thank you for this book, Memo, and I can't wait to shake your hand in person. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Con.